All right, with Halloween around the corner, I thought it would be kind of normal to talk about horror games a little bit. I think one thing with horror games that are going on right now is that they're actually kind of going through the cycle that I think movies were going through probably about 5 years ago when like the Saw movies were really popular and a few other things like that. I think that horror is in games is still trying to kind of find itself. If you look at games like Until Dawn, which is probably the biggest new AAA horror game that's come out recently, I wouldn't even really consider it to be horror. It's more so of like a narrative story experience, and I think that when you look at horror, it's something that's supposed to scare you, and I don't know if you're really scared. It's more so you being worried about the characters that you've invested time into. And I don't know if I personally was scared while playing or watching the game. And I don't know. I think that horror games need to take advantage of things that have worked really well. And I don't mean exactly steal from them. I mean, if you look at Amnesia, which is considered to be, I think, and I think many people would argue with me in saying that it was the number one horror game for a really long time, that, the unknown scares you. When you can't see what's coming, when you don't know what's coming and you don't know what to expect, that freaks you out, and it didn't rely on jump scares because it built this atmosphere that you were playing in, that was this world that you were immersed in, and then the thought of something ruining this world that you were immersed in, this character that you had taken a part of, and the lore that you had experienced, it freaks you out to kind of have to deal with a monster who's there to kind of just destroy everything, who's kind of there to just break and kind of destroy what you have as a character. I think that when you look at Soma and when you look at Until Dawn, and another good example too is Spooky's House of Jump Scares, which I'll probably have some gameplay of that in the background right now, to take concepts from what you've learned, from what you've seen, from what you've read or experienced or maybe listened to in the game, to build that atmosphere. And in building an atmosphere, you're really building a world, a setting that the player is in, and kind of just destroying that in some ways with whatever it is that is the kind of antagonist of your horror game. If you take something beautiful and put a player in it and then just completely destroy it, it's going to affect them if they're emotionally invested into the game, if they're emotionally invested into the character, into the lore of what's going on. The thought of something completely destroying that or breaking it or threatening you is going to be threatening. It's going to freak you out. I think it's really important for horror to think about nowadays is that they need to kind of look at how players are responding to games nowadays. We have short attention spans. People don't have the creativity that they used to have, at least not as many people do. I mean, we've kind of been force-fed a lot of things and kind of been handheld through a lot of things, and not all players are ready to invest a lot of time into learning about something, and you kind of need to give them something right away or they're going to just lose all excitement. They're going to lose their interest. And that's got to be a struggle as a game designer. It's got to be a struggle as someone who's writing for a horror game in a lot of ways, just to kind of understand that not every player is going to react the same way. Not every player is going to want to put time into learning about what's going on. And those are the kind of things you need to think about. And I think building a horror genre around there, instead of just throwing dead bodies at someone, instead of using these concepts of survival action, throwing a bunch of different genres into horror instead of letting scary games just be scary games, I think that could really improve the system. I think that could really make or break the horror genre that we have right now for games. I think that could push us past the 5-year drought that horror movies had, back when Saw and back when Hostel and all this stuff was popular and all people wanted to see was horror and gore and vor, and it wasn't affecting anyone because all they really got out of it was, ooh, gross. When in reality, horror, you're supposed to be afraid. You're supposed to be fearful of what's going on. You're supposed to get an emotional response more than just disgusting. That's not, if you wanted that, you can play games that are disgusting. I'm sure you could find them. Finally, I just want to make sure that, and I'm not bashing games that are out right now. There's a lot of really amazing horror games that have come out recently. A lot of them, unfortunately, are from indie developers. It doesn't seem like AAA really wants to push itself into the horror genre because it is a very rocky road, and I kind of understand why, you don't want to spend millions of dollars on a AAA horror game when that audience, I think, is one of the hardest audiences to satisfy, maybe right behind role-playing games. And I get that, but I think that, you know, if a AAA developer looks at some of the indie titles that have come out recently and there's some collaboration that's done, some, you know, maybe purchases of some collaborations that are done, and some different I think people need to work together and kind of figure this whole thing out, because, you know, as Halloween gets closer and the scary games that are out right now, I mean, Soma's good. I mean, it's more so, once again, in my opinion, of a narrative experience. I think Frictional Games did a really good job with kind of the atmosphere of the game, but in what I've played, I'm not really scared. I'm kind of more so interested in like what happens next in the story, and the enemies are more so just kind of little hiccups I have to get through to get to the next part of the story. You know, I don't want a genre that only is based in YouTube. It seems like YouTube is the only thing keeping horror alive right now. I personally love watching people, you know, play horror games. I mean, I don't think I would upload it to this channel on a regular basis, but I enjoy watching that, and I know a lot of people do, but I don't think that should be the only thing that keeps horror genre afloat. I think player interest should be able to keep it afloat, and sales, not just, you know, Markiplier or, you know, one of these people playing a game and just being terrified the whole time. So yeah, I just hope that some of these thoughts get to some of you. I know it's October, so I just want to kind of give my opinion on things and hear anyone else's opinion, so feel free to let me know. And yeah, thank you.